Hey guys, I know it's been a while. Um, had a lot going on and did not feel as motivated. Was finishing up some classes. Um, and I recently started to go to conventions. So a lot of what this video is going to be focusing on is exactly that. I kind of want to give a little bit of the lowdown of my own experience going to conventions around my area and also in other states. Kind of give the sense of like where I'm going with that because I do see myself continuously going to conventions and I even want to give any recommendations and things that I've 100% learned ever since I first started. Give you guys some tips and tricks. And at the same time, I'm also going to be looking at the market, maybe just sort of like making little comments here and there on four sets. I'm going to be looking at Neo Destiny, Supreme Rivals, I think, the Celebrations, 25th Classic Collection, and Prismatic, sort of making little ideas and give some thoughts here and there. So we'll start with my general ideas of this, and then I'm going to get into my convention stuff. Okay. So let's just take a quick look at Neo Destiny. So what I will say whenever you're looking for specific prices on anything, okay, anything, do not ever look through Collector, do not look through Pokédata, any of these apps. They are all off, completely wrong. They take averages and they're incredibly off. TCG Player is also a huge no-no for me. You do not go through TCG Player. The only two that I would actually trust are price charting and eBay. You look at the recently sold eBay prices, that for me is usually my bread and butter. I don't ever, whenever I'm even talking to vendors, I'm like, hey, if we're going to be trading, it's got to be at this amount, not a TCG Player, because TCG Player is incredibly off, but a lot of these guys at convention shows love to use those prices, obviously because they'll get the best prices, but it is pretty convenient. It's just that it's always off. Like I feel like there's maybe been when it comes to vintage, maybe 5% of them of the transactions that I've even looked at through TCG Player have been accurate. But the problem is there's so many issues. One, you don't have any photos. Two, it's always sellers like just listing whatever conditions, and of course if you don't have the photos, you don't know what condition it is. Three, people tend to even underscore the condition, so they'll sell something near mint at and it's like listed at LP, even MP, and it's like what is this person even doing? So if you ever want to get a good hit, a good score, you could try that, but it's very risky. I never do that. So there's a lot of issues with TCG Player, right? Even with Pokédata here, I'll tell you right now, Shiny Tyranitar is not worth 450. Even if you're looking at the average across all the conditions, I still wouldn't say that this is the best average to look at because it just doesn't make any sense. If you have one that's played, it's already probably worth more than 450, I'll be honest with you. It would have to be damaged probably to even be close to 450. Um, Near mint ones are currently selling for like more than 800. I sold one near mint a couple of months ago for 800, so I would assume they're even more now. Yeah, all these prices are just completely off. The only thing that you could sort of gauge when it comes to vintage is just like what cards are in a set to look through here. Maybe when you're trying to, negotiate, you could try to show these prices. Maybe the seller might go through this, especially if they're new. Obviously, that sounds a little scummy, but I think as a buyer, really, buyer sellers are just making up prices all the time. That's what I really figured out from conventions. So it's kind of like it's not really scummy. It's just really up to the person to do their own research. And trust me, vendors are going to try to get you to buy at these prices. So for me, it's just smart to learn what the prices are, especially if you're engaging on more expensive cards. And I'll get into a little bit of what I'm specifically talking about. But I'll show you guys some of the prices here. I know that the Shining Celebi right now is going to be going for a lot, obviously, because it's getting reprinted. Um, Dragonite cards are very much up. Light Dragonite, Light Arcanine I've seen for a while at that price. And a lot of the holos for this specific set are really good. I remember when I first got into Pokemon, I didn't care at all for the rares, and you'd be surprised at some of the prices. I mean, look at the Dark Slowking, even more expensive than the Dark Donphan, which I don't understand why, other than the Tomakatsu tax, which I love the artist and I'm personally collecting him. Even the Light Slowbro is insane. I remember when the Light Vaporeon was that price and all these other cards were like a couple of dollars. I was always like the Light Vaporeon and the Light Evolutions are the ones to go for on this in this set, but look, even the Togepi. I will even say with these prices, it's a little bit off. Each one of these is maybe worth $10 more. The Chansey I know is worth a little bit more. The Psyduck's worth a lot currently right now. People are going crazy for Psyduck. Even regular reverses from like the 2000, 2010s eras are doing crazy numbers. I recently got the Tomokatsu Psyduck, I think in a reverse for like 100, and that card is worth like 200, $300. I'm gonna show you guys also some of my pickups that are right here, but there are so many other ones that I don't even have available to show just because they're in all my binders and stuff. But the conventions have been going really great. So why don't we get into that? So let's just show a random one that's not that big. So well, this is still kind of big. So one of the recent pickups that I made was this Reshiram EX for 200. So this is how I went about going to conventions. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to it. I never trusted them. I've seen people get robbed. I've seen crazy shit happen. I was very like a little standoffish at even going to them for a while for that specific reason. I feel like now things are pretty cool. The conventions that I've gone to have been very chill. No crazy shit has happened. It's been very, you know, a lot of shit's going on, so nobody's really paying attention to everything. And I guess I could show a little bit closer. And this was one of my earlier trades. So what I was trying to look for was when I was going to do a trade, I was going to try to get rid of a lot of cards that for for two things. One, they are kind of popular, but maybe their peak has gone to the point that I don't think it can go any further. So I tried to make that like be a trade in the moment because sometimes, especially with sellers, they don't they don't really calculate that this card might not do well as time goes on. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to get it right now because it's going to sell immediately." And if I can get it at 70, 75%, it's a no-brainer. For me, my cutoff was 80%, and it really depended on who I was talking to. I just don't think that 70% is fair at all. And especially with cards that are more expensive, like let's say if I was trading in this card, I would not look for anything lower than 85%, just to be honest, because the seller buying it, if they're able to sell this, what would be 85, 15% more, like an extra $30, right? If they can make 230 and they know that they can do it in the show, they'll pick it up like that and they don't really care. They're not going to be like, oh man, I could have made a $40 get up. No, it's like they know it's a popular card, so they're going to go for it. I would always stick to your guns being at 85%. Do not do 70. A lot of them are going to offer 70. They're going to be like, oh, I'll buy all your stuff. I'll buy your entire binder at 70. Don't do that. Avoid those people like the fucking plague. Just stick to 80 to 85% and even try to get 90 for cards that I think that are worth above 500. Because I think that's just about fair. The guy's going to make an extra $100 just for having the card, and all that they have to do is just trade some cards that probably are difficult for them to move, but it might be a card that you actually want. So, I traded a bunch of cards towards this card. I was able to, I think, literally cover the full thing. The only thing that I would say that I didn't do that smartly early on was looking for centering. I don't care about cards that to grade because I'm already assuming that at most conventions these cards aren't really gonna grade well. I know some people like to go about that. I'm already assuming that they're not gonna grade well, right? I think that I definitely messed up though because I think that this is so severely off center that the guy, one, always try to negotiate a cheaper price. That's something that I wasn't doing at all. I was just trying to trade with them at their percentage and then not even trying to lower down the prices at all. This one I could have gotten maybe even 20 bucks off because of the centering. Because the thing is, right now at a lot of conventions, they're only looking for cards in near mint condition, maybe sometimes lightly played, but especially with modern, they don't want anything less than near mint, but especially gradable. So a card like this can be sitting on a person's inventory for weeks, even months. Even if the price goes up, it's because of the centering, not a lot of people are going to go for it. And I messed up in certain ways. I'll even tell you of a trade that I really didn't like that I did, and then after this I'll move on to Supreme Rivals, right? Supreme Victors, my bad. So this was a trade that I did. I got the new Pikachu. I wanted this card so bad. I love this card. I think it's way prettier than the other Pikachu. You probably can't see much because of the lighting in here. I definitely have the lighting way too dark right now. I love this card, but if you look at it pretty well, the centering is again pretty off. I didn't personally care because I was like, you know what, like I love this card. I wanna own it. I guess I'll keep showing it for a little while. And so this was my trade package, right? I basically did the Giratina V. at 85% to trade towards this. And the guy ended up paying me a little bit, which the guy actually tried to be a little scummy. He tried to take a little bit off the top. He was trying to give me 80%, and I was like, bro, you have a sign right there that says 85%, and the Giratina V is worth trading at 85. I could have even gotten 90% for the Giratina V. Now, actually, since you guys see my screen, we could probably even look at the Giratina V. I felt that it was a stupid trade on my part because I'm like, dude, you could have just honestly sold the Giratina V online or maybe even at a convention as a vendor and like sold it at, I think at the point that I got him convinced that was like $800. I'm not sure where it's at right now. That's why I'm gonna look real quick. Where is Lost Origins? There it is. What's Lost Origin? I always thought it was Lost Origins. It's at 868. So you see, I could have even held on to the card for a little bit longer. Probably could have even sold it for 900 online, to be honest. I don't even know if that price is completely accurate. And like I could have just bought this card at a convention even with the guys. So it was like those were that was one of the early trades where I was like, damn, I don't think that was a good trade at all for me, because even though I wanted this card so bad, that wasn't really the point of selling my Giratina V either. I wanted to get straight up cash for it. If I could have just done that instead, I think like I could have even sold it to another person that was buying. They would buy it. There's people that come in with money. It was also in a convention where it was like a small hall. It just I made a lot of stupid choices in specifically that one. That's why I'm never going to that one again. Um, but it's another little lesson where you kind of get caught up in the high of like trading and selling that you get thirsty, you get a little bit hungry, you're not thinking as clearly. Initially, I was going to trade it towards a Charizard and then the Mega Charizard, and then the guy took that off the table, and then because it was a different vendor, and he didn't want the Giratina, but then when he got me to talk with this guy about it, it's like really think about it. He got rid of a card that again I could have gotten a little bit off of it. I could have even told him, hey, can we trade evenly at 85%? So, he could have given me a little bit more cash, because then what I would have saved around $100 for this card, so I at least would have felt a little bit better. And I know he would have done it because I know that he probably wasn't able to sell this card. This card's probably doing well, actually, since I don't think we have Ascended Heroes up, but let me quickly look that up and we'll see how the price of this card is doing. I know it was going up last time I saw it. I don't normally check these, so I don't really care too much. It stayed around the same, if not dropped a little bit. Which again, it's like it kind of shows you like what was I really thinking. It was one of those early things though that for me, I was like, okay, I made a stupid decision, but let me learn from it, right? Let me not like get hung up on it. Let me be like, oh man, what a terrible trade. Like, I got the card that I loved. I got rid of a card that obviously most people would trade a lot for, even at 90 to 100%, to be honest. But I got a card that I wanted, and it was a learning lesson. Now that I know, for me, when it comes to conventions, for any card above 500, I am sticking to 90%, and I'm also doing fair trade, because I think that's just fair. I think that the person is gonna be happy to get a specific card like that, especially a card like that. And it was in great condition. It was near mint. It wasn't perfect. I don't know if it was gradable, but as I would have probably graded it. But it was just one of those early learning lessons, okay? And it's stuff like that that you really want to keep in mind when it comes to looking at specifically what you're going to do at a convention and what you're looking for. Try to learn from your mistakes as much as you do from what you end up coming away with. Okay, so Supreme Victors. This Charizard G level X. I've actually never seen this card in person. I'm actually surprised that it's worth that much. I do have this Articuno, and actually this one's a bit on the money if I'm not mistaken in terms of near min prices. For heavily played ones, which I actually have a heavily played one, it's like around 100. I want to keep it because I love the card so much. I was taking it to shows and they were offering me like around 60, 70. I'm like, nah, I can't. Like, I wasn't even trying to get rid of it for anything lower than 200. I didn't realize that the heavily played prices are so distinctually low. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just wait until it does well, and then later on maybe part with it. But I still love the card enough that I'm like, I don't really care. I've actually never seen this shiny. One thing to definitely be on the lookout for, I've had plenty of binder, purchases where I will sometimes get like a shiny here and there, and like nobody had an idea that it was worth so much. I think that happened with like a Charmeleon, or I can't remember. I can't remember what specific card, but it was like a card that you wouldn't expect it to be a shiny, unless you look on the bottom right. So definitely very much keep that in mind. A lot of these reverses from this era are doing so well. I will say that at shows, they are probably the best thing to look for, but also the worst because a lot of vendors are putting them at egregious prices, but there's other vendors that don't, right? They kind of just sell it at the like $1 vintage little binder thing. Maybe it'll be played, but it'll still be worth a good amount. So I would highly recommend to look through the reverses of this era and even the ones from the 2000 and 2010s era. Those are doing super, super well. I even recently sold like this Squirtle from Boundaries something, Boundaries Crossing or something like that. And it sold for like 70 at a show. It was worth around 70 online, so I was like, perfect. That's great that I was able to just sell it to a vendor. It was towards a trade. It was an even trade as well. And yeah, a lot of these reverses are doing extremely well, especially a lot of the Yuko, right? Yuko, I have a card of this person actually. It's Yuka Mori. Yeah, Yuka Mori is doing extremely well. A lot of these arts are doing so, so well. I would even recommend keeping some of the modern ones just because I think as time goes on, just like the Tomokatsu Kumiya collectors and the Shinji Kanda collectors, like they're gonna want these cards eventually. And I think that they just do extremely well. Um, and they get a lot of attention. Okay, so I'll keep scrolling a little bit so you guys can see the rest of the reverses. Again, I would always double check these prices online. I do not think that these are all accurate at all. This is a pretty huge list. I'll show you guys another big one. This was one of my early pickups. This was the Ditto. This one is in like maybe medium play condition, but even I felt that the price was actually completely off. I realized that this was actually from my local comic book store. So this wasn't from a convention, but always check your LCS. They might have some great stuff. Okay, so I can show you guys a couple of cards that I got away from in a trade. They're not all here, actually. No, I don't think they're all here. Hopefully I'm still scrolling at a pretty reasonable rate for you guys to look. Okay, I'll detail a little bit of the breakdown of this trade, but this was another little learning lesson. So, what I learned was that you have to be very careful with specific conditions. Because if a person puts near mint, right, it might be near mint. It might be, especially a very trustworthy vendor. The problem was when I looked at this card, it had a little bit of a line scratch on the back. I don't know if I'll be able to show you guys, but basically automatically lightly played. I was super disappointed because like this was a part of a trade, and I probably could have even gotten this for cheaper. If you notice these things in person, the vendor will meet you at a lower price. So that's why with every card that you get, inspect it. Take it out, ask if you can take it out of the top loader. Just be respectful in that way, but like seriously check the conditions unless you're certain that it's a steal. If you think it's a steal, um just buy it. I've had so many instances where I'm almost certain it's a steal. I go to trade or something, the person looks it up, and then it's like, oh fuck. Then we have to like kind of negotiate at a different price. It's like sometimes when you know, you just know. A card like this, I literally took just for it to be a part of a trade, and then I could sell it. It was just really bad. This was just not the right pickup at all. Um, yeah, actually, I even wonder, was it just a line issue or was it something else? Yeah, I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but it's like a little line. There's no way you guys will be able to see it. But it's basically it's like it's a pretty good visible damage, and I just completely missed it. Um, Honestly, that could even be considered medium plate. So that's a huge loss there, right? But it was towards a big trade. There was so much going on that I wasn't able to really figure out. So I'll detail the trade. So it was basically a Game Boy Mewtwo and a BGS 9. It was going for around 1800 to 2000. I told this guy, look, I want to do a straight up trade. I don't want a dollar less than 2000. I have a bunch of people here willing to go for it, and it's an extremely rare card. The guy was like, I'm completely down. He ended up giving me a Rayquaza from Delta Species, the reverse hollow, completely beautiful condition. It's not perfect, um, but it's in really fantastic condition. It was basically worth around 1200, and so he just added a bunch of cards on top of that. Another one was the Snorlax. Another one where it would have looked fantastic. It wasn't for 25. and I actually sold this one at a show for 450 because I had one in a PSA 9. So I love that I was able to pick it back up. The only problem with this one is, again, there was some wear. Let me see if I could detail exactly what it was. But let me see. Yeah, there's a little bit of a line indent on the top. Always use the lighting, even when you don't have anything too bright, to showcase what might be an issue whenever you're looking at conditions. Yeah, there's basically like up here, there's just a bit of an issue. It's not a huge issue, but we were basically clocking it at near mint, I think, at least from what I can remember. And again, it's just one of those things where I notice it. I could have probably saved like $100 off the top and got another card. So it's really important that you guys just straight up look at what you're buying and ensure that even when you're doing a large trade, take it slow and be very thoughtful because for me it's like sometimes I want to get through as many vendors as I can, and I've learned stick to the ones that maybe aren't as big. Try to see what they're willing to offer you and see what they have. If they have something that you really want, and a lot of these cards are really wanted, so that even the ones that like the only one that I would say I didn't really want was this one as much. I just kind of threw it on top, but the rest I really wanted. Black and white is doing fantastic, and I think this card's already up like $30 or $40, so it's not too bad from when I originally bought it. Uh, it's just very important to do that stuff, okay? All right, so Supreme, whatever that, Victors. Anything else to say about this set? This set is pretty great. I mean, I definitely wouldn't try to collect this set, but to each their own. You guys go for this. You guys, good luck, man. I don't know how anybody is collecting some of these older sets. They just feel so unreachable. Okay, I already talked about Neo Destiny, right? Yeah, I did. Okay, just making sure. The one thing that I will say with Neo Destiny also is that like the prices have gone up so much. Like I remember when some of these were worth just $1. And like even the cheapest card now is just worth like $2 or $3. Like look at the cheapest card of this set. A Slugma. It says 38 cents. I highly doubt it that that price seems pretty large in comparison. Like it's too much of a large price discrepancy here. Um, But even if you look online on eBay, like most of these are worth like $3, $4, like even $1 more than what they're showing here. So it's always good if you can get like some collections, if you can find these at shows, try to look for Neo cards even in $1 bins because those pile up. People online buy them. You could trade them with other fellow traders for like more modern cards that are maybe a little bit more liquidable. So it's never a bad idea. Okay. So before I go into celebrations, you know what? Let me get into celebrations actually, yeah, because I think if I go into my other stuff, it's just too much to go into. The reason why I'm looking at celebrations is because I basically have been telling whenever I can to anybody that I communicate with, whether it's somebody online or whether it's somebody that I know, pick up celebrations cards. If you can for free, basically, because recently I sold every Venusaur and every Blastoise that I had recently at 20 bucks a pop. These are worth way more. Almost every card here is probably off, I would say. Maybe not the Charizard. I think the Charizard's the most accurate, and the Umbreon. But the rest are pretty off to some degree. Um, these cards are just doing so well. I mean, I know that some of these are still worth like less than $1, but I remember when the Rocket Zapdos was 20, 30 cents. Like, this card was so cheap, and I thought it was such a sick card. I always thought it was such a sick card. The Dark Gyarados is $5. It is funny that the Xerneas was actually worth more than a lot of these. Uh, so it is interesting to see this one fall that much. But again, always double check your prices because these prices are not good. What we saw in the previous 25th celebration was basically everything from the 20th celebration went up. Even recently, the same thing happened. I think that it's going to continue to be that trend because what's going to end up happening is a bunch of shit's going to sell out from the 30th. It's going to be egregiously priced. These cards are going to be available. The packs are going to be available. The boxes are going to be available. They're going to be like, you want to open up celebrations? Here you go. Go for these. Hey, you want a celebrations card? You want to get your kid a Venusaur from celebrations? Boom. It's got the celebrations stamp, and they're not going to know the difference. They're just going to see the celebrations and be like, oh my god, it's a celebrations card. So it's a no-brainer for me. I've been picking these up for the past year. Whenever I get them in purchases, I literally have been keeping them away in a box, and I'm like, I'm going to sell them off later. I think I literally have every single card of multiple duplicates other than the Charizard. I don't think I've been able to find another Charizard for a while. I remember when this card was like $70. I don't know if it'll show it here. It probably won't. Oh, I'm not signed in for whatever reason. Oh, well, my bad. I would sign in, but whatever. We can even look through not Pokelector. Sorry, price charting. I'm a little tired at this point. So yeah, pick up classic. So let's see what I'm going to show. So I'm going to show some of the minor purchases, and then I'll get into the bigger purchases near the end. These are cards that I'm basically picking up either they're part of my collection or like, I'm kind of like, like I think that these are cards worth just investing in, sort of seeing where they may go as time goes on. These also aren't all of them. I had a lot of pickups from these shows. I just don't have all of them available right now, currently with me. Okay, so Kyogre, Celestial Storm. I'm like, this is kind of a no-brainer. I know that there's a staff version one that goes for pretty crazy prices, so that already shows that there will always be like a focus. That's usually a really big like concept to really get to understanding when it comes to Pokemon selling is that if you have a card that has always some level of focus that can benefit off of other cards increasing and then eventually this card will also increase. That's the reason why I kind of went for this one because I'm like there's a staff one. This is basically market price. Perfect condition. I checked it up. It was perfectly fine. No actual issues. And it's actually a pretty sick card, I'm not gonna lie. So it kind of checked all the boxes for me in terms of like collecting. This was just a personal pickup. I really like this Regigigas. Um, I've been liking a lot of the full arts recently, so I kind of like it a lot. I thought this one was kind of cheap. I'm like, the English went up recently to 50 and 60, and I'm like, I know that it could probably fall back down. It's probably even gone back up. I don't really know, but I'm like, I feel like this art is just pretty sick. I didn't have it in Japanese, so it kind of like checked again all the boxes for me. I think that it's still underpriced. I think it has a good history. Very popular Pokemon. Even though it's Japanese, Japanese also tends to appreciate pretty well with English. And they also all tend to be in really great condition, so I usually don't have to worry about checking them that often, but still always check. Got this Charizard for 10 bucks. Maybe it's even market price with it being pretty played, but it looked pretty nice to me, to be honest. Like, there's no real major issues. I love that it's a holographic. Just thought it was kind of sick. I saw it, I was like, you know what? You can never go wrong with buying Charizard. Who knows? It might be worth way more than what I thought. This Gengar, another Gengar boy. I sold actually a lot of my Gengars at these conventions, but funnily enough, still had to pick up some of the cheaper ones. This one's just pretty sick. I love his humongous fucking head. It's ridiculous. Especially Lost Origin. Great set. Great card. This was just a personal one for me. Just think it's pretty freaking cool. Oh. The art just looks so fantastic. I love when they were going with this rainbow design during the last like sort of set list, and I don't know. I think Executor looks pretty cool here. Not gonna lie. This was also another personal, but I think it also aligns with where I think prices can eventually go, the Volcanion EX. I think that this is a pretty cool card because especially it's kind of like an early tag team because you can see Xerneas there. But it just feels so cheap. I get that the Volcanion cards have never done that well. It's pretty rare where I don't think any of them are even more expensive than this card if I'm not mistaken. I might be, but I don't think there's a single card more expensive than this one. I just like this one a lot. I think the art of it really pops. So it was more so for a personal. I don't think that this card's going to be like something going crazy by next year. I highly doubt that. I got the Umbreon EX. This one is kind of in between. I think I overpaid like by $2, so not a crazy amount when I first got it. Um, but I just think it's a pretty sick card. Uh, I think that especially these specific like prismatic uh, like sort of backgrounds and the way that it looks really nice. So I just thought, why not go for it? It'll be a long-term pickup. And this is one of the cards that I picked up a while ago personally, and then I saw it at a show and I was like, oh, I have to get this card again. It's basically a Shaman promo that is super rare, and for me, like a lot of these promos, I just feel like they're very much undervalued. And I think that nobody really pays attention to them, so I'm like, I kind of feel like this one makes a lot of sense. Either way, maybe I'm wrong. I got it for 20 bucks. I didn't really care too much. A lot of these minor pickups, it's kind of like I don't mind taking a couple of years to see if it appreciates well or not. I think it will because it looks hilarious. I think Shaman here looks so weird, but it's also kind of pretty. It's a weird card. Okay, so before I get to the big boy cards, which they're not too big boy here, there's some that are pretty good, some that are just okay. I'm gonna get to Prismatic. And the reason why I'm talking about Prismatic is that I think, again with Prismatic, a lot of these cards I think are still completely undervalued. I think the Umbreon is just about right for now. Obviously, we've seen a good history with the Umbreon VMAX and where that goes. So, sort of seeing that this card is at that price is not the worst. And I do think, again, as time goes on, Prismatic is just going to be very much revered. I mean, you have such beautiful arts across the board. Um, it's got the evolution. The evolution, we're gonna see where it tends to go as the years go on. Maybe it won't appreciate as well, but even with the 30th anniversary, they're going still back into the Umbreon, the Espeon. I swear those two have been like Pokemon staples for so long, and people wouldn't even really know, like since Pokemon Stadium, when those were the only two, those were the first two playable Pokemon. But this is a set that is basically dominated by the evolutions. I'm not going to go through all these, by the way, because there's so many. I just think that there's so many cards here that are so beautiful, and like, especially seeing them all together, I would be really surprised if most of these didn't appreciate even more and more as time goes on. I really feel like people are still completely sleeping on this set. I was collecting a lot of these, but basically like none of the ultra rares and above. It depends if it was like a regular ultra rare, like a Umbreon EX. Like that one, yeah, I would put away in my binder. Everything else I was selling because I felt that it was always at its peak price. I still think that this set has a long way to go. And really, I have nothing else to say with this. Just make sure if you see one of these cards in the wild, just check to see if it's a Master Ball. That's about it. Yeah, because this one's pretty self-explanatory. Just looking at some of the prices, I think was the main important piece of this specific portion. Okay, so to end out my video, I'm gonna just go through my in general sort of convention stories, give a lot of the tips and tricks because I've already given them a little bit here and there, but in spurts, especially when it comes to the cards, and I'll show the cards as I go along. So this one, another card that I got in the pickup. This one's specific, the Pokemon Center New York one, which this card hasn't appreciated in a crazy amount at all. And for me, that's probably a very good thing. One thing that I ended up learning was there are specific cards that don't appreciate well, but they have the capacity to go extremely high. And I think with vintage promos, especially one like this that's kind of rare, um, it just kind of makes a lot of sense for me to pick it up. I've wanted it for a long time. I ended up picking that one up. This one was a steal. So if you look at the price point, guy was selling it for 200. This is practically near mint, maybe a little bit of edge wear, but I would still consider this near mint. And the guy just had no idea the price that he was selling it for. I was literally specifically looking for this card because I knew the value of it. At the time when I was looking for it, it was worth 400. This guy listed it for 200 and it was part of this bigger trade. I think at the time I included like Mega Charizard EX. So, a little extra tip, and I didn't even think I would talk about this, but a little extra tip when you're selling a big card or you're trying to trade a big card to a vendor. Again, the structure. You start at 90% for the bigger cards. You do not go any lower. If the guy does not want to do it, that's fine. Move on to somebody else because trust me, there will be somebody else that will do it. I know if it was even me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm getting that Mega Charizard at 90% because I'm going to sell that at the end of the show. 1,000,000% to somebody, or I'm going to keep it. And I got it at 90%. On top of the discount that you usually will get when you're buying in person because you're not having to deal with all the taxes and shit. All that being said, because I was going with such a big card, I think he didn't really. He had already priced this at this price point, so obviously he had messed up. But he was so excited about the Mega Charizard that there were so many cards. He even threw in a regular. He threw in a Politoed from Skyridge, a reverse holo of that one for completely free. He had it at $35. I knew that that card was worth at least 100 plus, and I actually recently sold it for 125. And he threw it in for free. So it was just one of those rare like trades where unfortunately with that Mega Charizard I traded it at 82%, I could have definitely done a little bit more, and I think I got a little bit more out of the guy if I remember correctly. But always stick to 90% and bring in larger cards because maybe some of the cards that they're willing to like, they're not going to really double check their prices, and that can help you out a lot as a collector. Charizard EX. I wanted this card for a while, um, and I got it from a random trade. Pretty good, solid card. Not going to go into too much detail with that one. I just think it's a good investment. So with the conventions, I've basically been going around the Massachusetts area. A lot of these have been pretty cool. There was the best one that I've gone to was the Heinz Convention Center. That one was awesome. It was the first time they hosted it there. There were so many vendors. One little tip that I can give is whenever you're going to go to one of these conventions, check how many vendors there are. Because to be honest, if a vending show has like around 10 people, it's not worth going to. I went to one that was nearby that I did not check how many vendors were going. That was very much my mistake because there was like around 10 people, and that's where I made a lot of the very questionable trades. I don't know if I even had a single good trade at all. Now, when I'm reflecting back on it, I did just straight up terrible. From the guy that I chose to meet up there to everybody, I just did terrible. The lighting in there was so awful. That's another thing at these conventions is that the lighting doesn't tend to be the greatest. So use your phone camera, flashlight, just to really get a good look at some of these cards. Some of the vendors will have lights, but still, I would recommend to do that. Another very huge pickup for me was getting this Darkrai. Um, it kind of met three criteria for me. One, Darkrai, about to get a set. Obviously, the card's going to go up. It's just the consistent trend over and over and over again. It gets focused onto a newer card. A lot of the older cards start getting caught up in the traffic, and then they get advertised, and then they go up. Whatever, whatever. The plasma cards I think are so sick. I recently also traded towards this Palkia, so I have a little buddy for it. I'm trying to get the rest of the plasma cards because I think these, even next to each other, just look absolutely gorgeous. Super sick cards. I'll probably save that one for last because that's a pretty big pickup. Uh, yeah, so I've been sticking to conventions around here. I did go to one in New York, Random Haunter. I think I paid alright for it. Um, and I've been traveling. I've been like sort of taking trains out to other states, going to these. Be very careful with how you pack your stuff. Bring all your stuff in a top loader. That's a very important thing. And ensure that the top loader is in good condition because mine ended up getting just destroyed from all the traveling, so I had to get a new one because it was really bad. But make sure it's all top loaded. Another very important little tip, if you're bringing cards to trade, use clear sleeves. Do not use other sleeves. That just delays so much time. Also, have a good general idea of how much your prices are, just for you can know going in like what you're looking for, what your cutoff is, and just go about it that way. Some people will meet you at your price, other people will try to debate. If they try to debate too much, just be like, you know what, move on. We don't need to figure that one out. Let's just put it in the maybe pile. Let's figure out everything else, and then if we're good to meet on a price here, then that's all good. But make sure you know your prices. Do not go in there blinded. You need to have a collector list. You need to have something to indicate what your prices are at. Machamp from Pre-Evolutions. I get that there is a I forget that there's another version of this card. I forget if it's a staff or not. Worth a lot more. I think that this was a solid pickup. Very much on the price. Again, this is a card that I think I could have gotten for a little bit cheaper. Always try to haggle. Always try to negotiate just a little bit less. It really goes a long way when you're saving like 10, $15 here and there. I think I could have, and I just chose not to. It's in near mint condition though. Really solid card. Uh, I have all of XY, so I wanted the pre-release card. I think I got this one for a pretty good price. Either way, just a solid pickup. I really wanted this card for a while, ever since I saw it. Absolutely love the card, and I'm going to be picking up the stamped one. Very much would recommend that one. Let me see, anything with conventions that I haven't talked about. Definitely when you even try to start trading, and this is just specifically trading, ensure that you have a card in mind. A lot of them are going to ask you, like, hey, any card that you are interested in, because then I could start pulling out some cards that are in similar value. Definitely have a card in mind. Give it some time. If you need to walk away, that's fine. Do not just get suckered into talking to somebody just because the guy's nice or the person's nice. Like just move on. It's fine. Another nice pickup. Love this Venusaur. Got it for 65. I didn't think it was too bad. I think it was around market. Just love the card. I think I sold the English one for like 250, so I was like, you know what, I get to pick one up at a cheaper rate. This one I got for a fantastic price. The guy actually didn't realize that it was damaged, and he was trying to sell it for 310. I was like, dude, damage does not go for 310. It goes for 110 online, and I think I brought him down a little bit lower to 90. Um, but this card I've wanted for so long. I had this card years ago. It doesn't appreciate very well. I just love the card personally. I don't even care that it's damaged. This card means a lot to me. When I first started collecting, I got like all Entei cards, and this was one of the first. And then I sold that guy like at 250, 300. He might have been like near mint. I can't remember. He hasn't appreciated that well, I'll tell you that much. It might have even been lightly played or medium played. I don't know. Another great pickup. This one's just a solid pickup. I feel like these level X cards in Japanese are severely underrated. I get that they maybe grade well or something, or maybe there's just plenty of them available, but I just was like looking at this one, I'm like, damn, like you're telling me this is $100? Like I don't know. For me, I'm seeing some of these level X's in English go for 200, $300, and they're pretty mid cards. Like I like the Rayquaza ones, but they're not like phenomenal. They look just about fine. I think that this one looks way cooler than the Rayquaza level X's, like all of them. This was a niche purchase. This was just part of a trade. I think I got it for a little bit cheaper than this. Pretty cool. Uh, market value was at that amount. I don't even think I'm really interested in trading for this. I just wanted to add it to my PC. So maybe down the line I'll sell it. I don't mind. It's going to be a little bit hard to move something like this, but still, I think it's pretty cool. Charizard, you never know. Okay, so we're going to talk about a big boy here. And this boy is this guy. Basically traded a bunch of cards, a lot of level X's, I think even a base set Charizard, at around DMG prices for like around 80%. I was so tired at the end of the show. I was not thinking very well. I don't fully regret this one. I just think that a lot of the ones that I sold, maybe I could have gone a little bit more for, but it was fine. I don't fully regret it because this is a fantastic card. When you see this in person, the way that it glitters is phenomenal. The only issue with this card, the only issue, and I didn't see any issue with it, but there's a freaking indent, uh, an indent line somewhere in the back. It's almost completely not visible. I don't know if I'll be able to capture that on camera, but it's like right there, which is not the biggest deal. Basically, like, I think that the near mint prices were more than 400, right? I think it's like around 500 to 600 near mint. I could be completely wrong, by the way. You guys can let me know. Uh, I was able to trade for it. I love this card. I've been looking for it for so long, and to see it at a vending show, I was like, damn, how do I not pick this one up? A little bit silly. I could have definitely pointed it out to the person. Again, it's just one of those things where it's like, do you mind going a little bit cheaper now that it's lightly played? The guy definitely would have been like, sure. You just got to do your due diligence and ensure that when you're tired, stop. Just go drink water, go take a piss, go eat something, come back. I know that there's only a certain amount of hours at every one of these shows, but it's still worth it to make solid deals, even if you leave with a good amount of your inventory, which I don't see a lot of people doing that. And I'll discuss why I started to do that. And a big pickup that I got, and this one I'm really happy about. I got the Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia GX, which actually while I'm talking, I'm going to look up the price of this one because I never looked it up. Other than when I bought it, in which I think it was like around 510, 520. I don't know if this will give an accurate representation of the value, but is this Cosmic Eclipse? I think it's Cosmic Eclipse. Yeah, it is. Okay, so that's 489. I highly doubt that. Does it show the doesn't show the recent sales. It shows some around 500 raw, 500. I wish I had signed in. Uh, this card is trending around like $500, and I've wanted this card forever. I remember when I first got into the hobby, this was like the card in the hobby, and to be able to trade for it, I think at around 85%, I traded a bunch of cards that for me meant nothing, and this card meant everything. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. I'm gonna do it. I think that was probably the best trade that I made because it was just perfect value, the perfect cards to get rid of for a card that I know doesn't appreciate very well and could have the possibility, obviously, of falling. But for me, it was like I kind of got it for free because I just traded a bunch of cards that I didn't care for anymore. Obviously, I had a percentage loss and I could have probably sold all of them. But this is exactly the reason why I wanted to start doing conventions. I've been selling on eBay for a really long time, and I've constantly known for a while that there are just so many fees online, man. There are so many fees. You have to pay all the fees on eBay. You have to pay the shipping. You have to pay for insurance sometimes because if you're sending something for over $200, you have to take on that risk. Are you going to send something worth over $200 and leave it uninsured? Because then all you're getting back is $100 if it gets supposedly lost, which I frankly I'm almost certain that 10 times out of 10 it's just somebody fucking stole it. That happened to me one time with the Gengar Mimikyu. Absolute disaster. Maybe I'll talk about that in a future video. But I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of netting around 65 to 70% online. Sometimes maybe I'll get lucky to net 80%, but even that's pretty rare. The only upside really is the amount of exposure that you get online. You'll get like thousands of views online as opposed to like at a convention maybe you'll get like around 100 if you even have a good show. So for me, it was like, oh, why don't I just go to these shows, sell them at, initially I was even willing to do 70, but now I'm like, sell them at a percentage, basically net it immediately, right? Some of these guys are going to be completely down for it immediately, right? I'm going to have somebody interested because the vendors need cards. The vendors always need cards. The vendors want as many cards as possible. And then if I could trade towards some stuff that I like, it just kind of is a net, it's just a win-win. I didn't really see anything that could be a net positive. Now, a net negative. Obviously, I've come to learn a lot of little things that I'm now going to take into account when I'm now going to start going to these conventions. But at the beginning, I was just like, it just doesn't make any sense to sell online anymore. I have to deal with consistent morons, consistent assholes, consistent people being condition warriors, and I just got sick of it. It made me feel so fed up and disinterested and disenchanted with such a fantastical like franchise. Pokemon is phenomenal and I love it and I just felt like it became such like a collector bro type of shit. And don't get me wrong, like I have some aspects of it, especially when it comes to investing, but I don't really carry that out as my main reason on why I still do this. I just do it for a living. Like I do it to pay the bills and to also collect. Like I love that I found something that I could do where I'm actually genuinely interested in it and like invested in it and I remember all the numbers and I like can take time to do research, and take even time to like sell and to communicate with people. I love doing it. So for me, it's been so lovely for years and I just started to lose my love for it, but going to conventions, I feel like I've really found the love that I've lost for so long. And I really would recommend anyone that has been feeling a little bit, disconnected from Pokemon, go to a convention, see how you do, meet some people. A lot of these people are very nice, man. They're really nice. Obviously, it's not always going to go well. You're going to meet some assholes. I've dealt with some condition warriors here and there. You're going to deal with a lot of them, for sure. But there's some really, really nice people, especially people that are just getting into the hobby and just trying to like trade. There's so many nice buyers and it's just really cool, man. It's a great experience. I've been loving it. I get excited. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna stay at a hotel here and this is gonna be fun. Like I get to do this on my own. I'm gonna travel here. I'm gonna take the train here. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna go on vacation here. Why don't I take a day to go to a convention? Because it's gonna be in that city anyway. I'm literally doing that this upcoming week because I'm going to a nearby state. And I was like, oh, while I'm heading there, let me do a convention. Why not? Like, fuck it. It's part of my vacation now. And I love it. I love doing this stuff. I love every part of the process. It's really like reinvigorated me as a seller. And even if I'm selling at a percentage loss and not doing stuff as a vendor, which I think I will, just not yet, um, I just think that it's awesome. I get rid of it immediately. I see some of these vendors literally leave with nothing. Like they don't do well at all at certain shows. It's really just it depends on what you have. I think a lot of what my inventory would be if I was to be a vendor wouldn't work as well because a lot of people are just into the modern stuff. They don't care about the vintage, and I'm all about vintage. My inventory is full vintage. And the thing is, vendors like vintage because a lot of them are collecting vintage. They're smart. They know that the modern stuff just doesn't do well long term, that you're just trying to sell it as quickly as possible short term. And yeah, I mean, I probably have so many other tips, more stories, probably more trading stories that I just can't remember right now. But this has just been a pretty, one of my longer videos, just discussing a lot about conventions. I would highly recommend it, seriously, guys. You guys have to go to them and just see what it's like. Because I avoided it for years, and I really wish that I didn't. I think that honestly, I would have made a lot more money, and I would have just had more fun. I would have had way more fun with people in person. I've literally like cut back my eBay stuff by like 80%. I just don't care to list anymore on there. I'm still putting like binder lots and stuff like that, like trying to sell like binder collections basically. Like whatever I don't sell at the show, I just kind of update gradually on my eBay and my Mercari and my Facebook. But other than that, I've been loving it. I really have. I hope that this influences you guys to go and experience it for yourself. And let's see, I have a couple cards that I'm putting away in my personal collection. Let's see if there's anything that I could show you guys that you guys might like. Oh, yeah, I think you guys will like this one. Got this from a random binder purchase. Near mint, like completely near mint. Altaria EX 9101. Beautiful card. Don't know what its value is. I'll probably look it up now. I didn't really care. I just one big change that I've been making recently is that if I have any played cards in my collection, depends on the card. Obviously, certain vintage played completely fine to keep. But I've been trying to move from most of those. I just want to move towards near mint cards, even if they're not my favorite. At least like long term, those tend to appreciate the most. They're the most easily tradable, and especially like just doing condition upgrades. It's kind of what I've been doing. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate anybody that still watches and not anybody that can even stick throughout this whole long video. Hopefully you guys can take away something from it, and I'll catch you on the next one.